In 1981, a mysterious arcade game appeared in Portland, Oregon. It was housed in a simple black cabinet with just one word glowing on the marquee: Polybius. Players who dared to try it reported nightmares, hallucinations, amnesia, and an intense, overwhelming addiction. And then, as quickly as it appeared, every single machine vanished without a trace. Some say it was a top-secret government experiment. Others say it never existed at all. For 40 years, the legend has grown, whispered in arcade halls, and spread across the darkest corners of the internet. But what is the truth? Was Polybius a real, mind-altering video game? Or was it the first great internet myth? Let's rewind to the neon-soaked days of the early 1980s. The story goes that in a few select arcades in Portland, this strange cabinet appeared. Unlike the colorful art of Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, Polybius was stark and unsettling. The game itself was described as a fast-paced, abstract puzzle shooter with dizzying vector graphics and hypnotic visual effects. It was mesmerizing, and kids lined up 4 hours, desperate for another turn. But the game came with a price. Players reported bizarre and frightening side effects: intense nausea, crippling headaches, vivid nightmares, and terrifying hallucinations. Some experienced memory loss or developed a deep-seated fear of video games. The darkest rumors even whispered of suicide. Even stranger were the reports of mysterious figures, the classic men in black, who would appear at the arcades. They weren't there to play. They were seen collecting data from the machines, adjusting hidden settings, and observing the players with unnerving focus. Then, just a month after they appeared, every single Polybius cabinet was gone, vanished overnight. For years, the story faded into the background, just another local legend told by a handful of people. That is, until the internet brought it roaring back to life. The year is 2003. On a vintage arcade game forum called coinup.org, a post appears that changes everything. An anonymous user, claiming to have first-hand knowledge, lays out the entire Polybius story in chilling detail. This post gave the legend its modern form. It described the gameplay as a disorienting mix of puzzles and shooting, filled with subliminal messages that flashed on screen too quickly to register consciously. The author claimed the game was a form of psychological conditioning designed to test the limits of the human mind. This post also gave the myth its most iconic details. It named the developer as Sinnesluschen, a German word that roughly translates to sense deletion. It even provided a supposed release date of 1981 and a grainy, ambiguous screenshot of the title screen. This single forum post was the spark that lit a wildfire. The story of Polybius exploded across the early internet, finding a home on sites like Reddit, YouTube, and creepypasta forums. A new generation was now obsessed with finding the game that drove people mad. With the legend spreading, theories about its origin began to multiply. The most popular one connected Polybius directly to the infamous MK Ultra program. The idea was that the CIA, or some other shadowy government agency, was using unsuspecting teenagers as guinea pigs for mind control experiments. The game, with its hypnotic visuals and subliminal messaging, was the perfect tool for testing psychological manipulation on a mass scale. Another theory suggested it was a form of psychological operations, or psyops. Perhaps the military was testing how visual and auditory stimuli could affect a person's behavior and cognitive function, using arcades as their secret laboratory. But skeptics were quick to point out the glaring holes in the story. There are huge inconsistencies in the few eyewitness accounts that exist. Not a single credible person from that era has come forward with a verifiable story. No one could even agree on what the game actually looked like or how it played. This led to the most likely explanation: the urban legend theory. Polybius might be a composite myth, born from a mix of real, isolated incidents. In the 80s, it wasn't unheard of for players to get sick from marathon gaming sessions. Cases of photosensitive epilepsy triggered by the flashing lights of games like Tempest, were documented. A few kids did collapse from exhaustion or dehydration after spending hours at an arcade. It's possible that these separate events merged over time into the singular, terrifying legend of Polybius. Then there's the psychological component, the Mandela effect. Maybe, just maybe, people started to collectively misremember a game that was never there to begin with. When you start digging for hard evidence of Polybius, you find nothing. Absolutely nothing. No one has ever found an original cabinet. No one has ever dumped the game's RAM file, which is the standard way old arcade games are preserved. The developer, Sinus Lushan, has no corporate registration, no history, no records of ever existing in any gaming database. It's a ghost company. Journalists and historians have interviewed dozens of arcade owners and employees who worked in Portland during the early 80s. Not a single one remembers a black cabinet called Polybius. Not one. Some researchers believe the legend might have latched on to memories of real games with similar abstract visuals, like Tempest or Cube Quest, which was a very rare Laserdisc game known for its surreal vector-like graphics. Over the years, a few supposed Polybius cabinets have surfaced at conventions or in online videos. But every single one has been debunked as a modern recreation, built by fans or as part of an elaborate alternate reality game. Every trail, every lead, every attempt to find the original game has ended in a hoax or a dead end. The game is a phantom. The evidence simply isn't there. Despite the complete lack of proof, the legend of Polybius is more powerful today than ever before. It has become a modern folklore icon, a piece of digital mythology. You can see it referenced in shows like The Simpsons, the Marvel series Loki, and in a special episode of Black Mirror. Countless YouTube documentaries, just like this one, have dissected the mystery. And indie developers have even created their own playable versions of what they imagine Polybius might have been like, feeding the myth even further. The story resonates because it taps into our deepest anxieties about technology. It's a tale about surveillance, about hidden forces manipulating us through the screens we stare at every day. In an age of algorithms and data collection, the idea of a game designed to control your mind doesn't feel so far-fetched anymore. Polybius is no longer just a story about a video game. It's a cautionary tale about belief, paranoia, and how easily a story can become a reality in the digital world. So, was Polybius real? All evidence says no. It was almost certainly never a real arcade game that existed in 1981. But in a way, that doesn't matter anymore. The story of Polybius reveals something very real about us: our fascination with the unknown, our fear of being controlled, and our willingness to believe in a good story, especially a scary one. In the digital age, the line between fact and fiction, between a real event and a viral myth, is becoming increasingly blurred. Polybius survives because we want it to. It's a mystery that's more fun unsolved. And maybe that's the final twist. Maybe the real experiment wasn't in an arcade cabinet back in 1981. Maybe it is happening right now, every time we share a story, click a link, or press play on a video without ever asking if it's true. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.